You're listening to Vantage Revival. Please enjoy this encore presentation of Season 1, Episode 10, Catch Me If You Can, originally uploaded September 30th, 2021.
Today we watch a DreamWorks picture film directed by Steven Spielberg, released December of this week's chosen year, 2002. Leonardo DiCaprio plays 17-year-old Frank W. Abagnale Jr., where after his parents' divorce, Frank uses his charm, wit, and endless aliases to con the banks out of millions of dollars, all based on a true story. Catch Me If You Can, now playing on Vantage Revival.
So do we start with the good news or the bad news?
Oh no. I want the bad news first.
I think there was some weird moments in this movie. And
Yes.
maybe you have answers for them. I don't know.
Okay.
The one that stood out for me was at the very end of this movie, which is odd to start at that place, but that's where I'm going to go.
Yes.
A big part of this movie is Carl trying to figure out how Frank passed the bar and became a lawyer.
Yes.
At the end of the movie, Frank tells Carl that he just studied for 2 weeks and that was enough for him to pass the bar. Now, that's a huge feat if that is true, that he could do that in 2 weeks. But my issue with that comment, if it is true, is when he talks to the judge, he had to use the TV shows to get him prepped for that, first off. And then he said, like, he was talking to the jury, but there was no jury. I just feel like if you could pass the bar, you could realize there's no jury in the room.
So I think it's not so much that he was trying to be a smart lawyer when it came to watching that video. I think it was more so he was trying to mimic that lawyer's confidence. So
Completely.
The bar and the studying for the bar came from studying law and passed the bar, whereas just because you're smart doesn't mean you know how to own a courtroom.
How would you not know the jury wasn't there?
Well, no, I get that. And I don't think that holds any truth to the real story.
I would hope not, because those moments, they come here and there throughout the movie, and they just pulled me out, because here's the good news, I'm just going to throw it out there. I did like this movie.
Yes! First one!
I did like this movie, and I wish these scenes that I found to be kind of, what is going on? To not be in the movie, maybe, and that would have just made it more real.
I think what it is it's just trying to reiterate that this kid is 17 years old. And that, I mean, yes, he's a genius to pass the bar with 2 weeks of studying, or he cheated, or whatever. But I think what those moments do is bring you out of the movie to remind you that this guy is still a kid, and he's still not going to be the smartest. He's still not going to make the wisest decisions, even though he happened to con his way through millions and millions and millions of dollars. But I don't think those things definitely did not happen.
So that is kind
of... I think it's that comic relief of this. It isn't meant to be a comedy at all.
But it's quite funny.
It is funny, but I think it's those moments of, what a stupid idiot. He was following this TV show to be a cocky lawyer and there's no jury or whatever, right? I think it's meant to bring you out of the story, and you remember that this isn't a 28-year-old lawyer. This is a guy who literally conned his way into the bar because he talked to his girlfriend's dad. Anyway.
I do question how much of it is real and what parts of it are true to the real guy, because it does seem really far-fetched. We should probably say there's a giant storm going on right now.
There's a huge storm, loud thunder, lots of lightning.
Hopefully we survive and the power stays on.
And if you guys hear rain in the back, apologies.
I want to talk about Tom Hanks' accent. Probably the worst part of this movie is that he can't keep his accent for more than 3 seconds at a time.
What's the part that I brought up? I can't even remember. But just anytime you go into the airport.
Yeah, he was a really horrible, like, Texas kind of accent, or he was Woody from Toy Story.
Yeah, that's true.
Also, I want to talk about the 2 mice story that they keep talking about in this. So there's a part with Frank's father, also named Frank. What was it? He was getting an award for something?
Yeah, I don't even know what the award was for, to be honest.
It's something to do with work, though.
Yes.
And the story is that there's two mice, and they fall into a barrel of cream. And the first mouse dies because it can't keep up trying to get out of the cream, so it just decides to die. But the second mouse keeps paddling, and it turns that cream into butter, and then it escapes because it climbs up the butter. What the fuck story is that? That's stupid.
You obviously don't get that this movie was based in not the early 90s, holy shit.
I get it, it was the 60s. I understand that. But I've also made butter before from scratch, and that butter is not like...
Show off. Whatever.
That butter is not like climbable. That butter is like still a creamy...
I think you're looking a little too far into this. What I think you think the metaphor thinks something that I think the metaphor is. So you think the metaphor is that these mice are trying to get out of the bucket, whereas I think that the mouse just worked hard enough and he eventually turned cream into butter.
No, I get that. I get what the point is.
No, but you're like, well, how is he climbing? I'm minusing the climbing out of the bucket part. I'm minusing that out of the equation entirely. It's just,
but you can't,
this mouse worked hard, so he turned cream into butter.
You can't keep that out, because that's the whole point of the story, is that he had to get out, and he turned...
Who said that the mouse was trying to get out?
What were they trying to do in that barrel?
He said two mice fell into a bucket of cream and one made butter. Never once did it say that those mice were trying to get out.
Well, they were panicking. That's why the first one died.
No, the mouse just gave up because he didn't want to work. That's the whole metaphor, is that one mouse gave up because he didn't want to work, so he fucking died in a vat of cream. And the other mouse was like, no, I'm going to fucking work my ass off in this bucket of fucking cream, and I'm going to make butter in this bitch.
That is not the case at all. All I want to say then is that if I'm ever a mouse, I hope I die in a fucking barrel of cream.
Wow, not gonna make it butter. That's fine. Anyway, let's go to the first time that Frank
Abadama.
Let's go to the first time that Frank... Oh my god. Frank Can you please say it?
I didn't write it down. He's just Frank to me.
Frank Abagnale. Let's go to the first time that Frank Abagnale Jr. conned anybody, which was at the school. So he was in, I think, a private school before. So he went into this school, and a jock pushes him into a locker, and he walks into this class, and it's all crazy. He sees the jock in the classroom, and he's like, no teachers here. And he starts acting as Mr. Abagnale. And he starts teaching, and the substitute teacher comes in, and he says, no, you're wrong, leave. I'm the substitute teacher. And for a week, he conned a class into thinking that he was teaching French.
So I have a question with that. Mm-hmm. I like it. I thought that was a really funny scene. Quite clever. But then when the substitute came in, it kind of ruined it for me, because A, how did he know that there would be a substitute coming in that day, first off? And then second, she was so offended that, like, she wasn't going to get paid for the week because they already had someone else. Would she not say something? Would she not file a complaint with a principal? Like, I just feel like her just up and leaving the school for the week is not real.
I do agree with that. I do agree that she probably would have talked to somebody and then it would have been figured out a lot sooner. I also like to try and look at things like that. Like this, I love this movie. I love Wolf of Wall Street, and this movie, I feel like they're both based on true stories. So I feel as though, where was I going with that?
To be fair, you love every movie you showed me so far before you show it to me, so you may not love it afterwards.
I've only not liked one movie afterwards, okay? Jace. No, but I do agree. I like to look at it, though, as... I don't know. And I'm not saying this to justify or make any sense of it, but it was like 1960-something.
That's your defense for everything that I bring up. But it was the 60s.
But it is.
We both weren't there. We don't know what it was like.
It was the 60s, and we weren't there, and we don't know what it's like. And the fact that a lot of this stuff happened in general, without it being questioned kind of makes you question the 60s, because how the fuck did any of this happen without anybody being like, we don't have Frank Taylor on our payroll, so why are we paying him? No, they just kept cashing his checks.
Hey, there was a company in our city that they paid a man who was no longer on the payroll. He quit the job years ago, but he was still getting paid and he never said anything in our city. And they paid him for like 20 years.
That's awesome.
Well, no, but now the issue is they went back and said, well, you have to pay everything back where you're going to jail. So now it's a whole fiasco because technically they expect him to say something. So stupid things still happen in now.
Today's society, yes. But when I watch this movie, I always look at it as like, it was the 60s. Things were different back then. Who knows what would have happened, especially because there is scenes of the movie that seem very unrealistic. Some people have come out and said, nah, that's impossible. But Frank,
just Frank Jr.
Frank Jr. himself, the real Frank Abagnale, the real Frank Jr. wrote a memoir, and he said that what is true in the movie and what is fake in the movie and what actually happened in real life. And there's some crazy things that you'd be like, not a chance. And they happened according to Frank, so.
And that's the other thing, too, is we have to take his word for a lot of this. And there has been people who have lied about what has happened to them. The one I think about is that Million Little Pieces book by something Fry. It was on Oprah. And
read.
Wait, have you heard of that before?
No.
So she promoted a book on her book club. It made television. And it was about him being a drug addict and getting out of it and what he had to go through. And she promoted this book like crazy. It sold off the shelves the minute she did that. And then people read the book that weren't a part of the Oprah group and who were actual drug addicts and were like, there's no way you could have lived through this. There's no way that this happened and you can tell the tale about this. And when that happened, people were like, is this book lies? And he came forward, because he had to at that point, and say, yeah, I lied about a bunch of this stuff, because he was caught. So again, we are trusting someone that these stories are all true, and it's going to be hard to say it's not true, because how many of us have these professions and are actively following this story?
No, 100%. And I just like to reiterate one more time. This was the 60s, right?
Is that going to be every movie?
Yeah,
well, this was the 80s. This was the 2000s and 3s.
No. It's just, I'm just saying a lot of things that happened to him that, like we talked about with Urban Legend, that we'd have to fact check now. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of crazy shit that happened back in the 60s, stuff that wouldn't happen today. So, yeah, we can only take his word for it, but at the same time, it was the 60s, and a lot crazier shit happened in the 60s than it does now. So, well, crazy stuff in the sense of what happened in this movie.
So in this movie as well, he had to decide which parent he wanted to live with because his parents were getting divorced. Mm-hmm. So I have a controversial question for you. Which parent would you pick to live with? Teenager Marissa.
Teenager me? Not today.
Not today.
Teenager me. My dad. Me and my mom did not get along at all until I was about almost 18. Like, we would fight every single day. Couldn't go a minute without fighting. We just did not get along at all. So I would go with my dad. Now, I could not even make that decision. I'd shoot myself in the head before I made that decision. My mom's my best friend. My dad has his moments.
It was funny when that scene happened. The first thing that came to my mind is I would write down, like, Angelina Jolie. Like just pick someone completely.
You said pick anybody. Where's my money?
literally. There was no stipulations. It had to be these parents. It just said pick a parent.
Angelina Jolie adopts.
Exactly. It's a foolproof plan.
Have you ever played the video game L.A. Noire?
No, I have no idea what that is.
Okay, so it's a 3-disc cop detective style game set in the 40s. And you start as a cop, you move your way up to detective. It's really awesome. Like, you get into crime scenes and you're flipping through things, you're trying to find evidence. It's really awesome. It would be in the same style as like Grand Theft Auto, Mafia, that type of deal. But it's set kind of in the same why are you laughing?
Well, I'll tell you in a second. Keep going.
It's set in the same time era kind of as what this movie is, so it really reminds me of that. But there's one scene where Carl is at Frank's mom's house And she goes, oh yeah, I have a yearbook with Frank's picture. And Carl sees the picture of Frank and realizes that that was the person that he tried to catch, that conned him. And it plays a little like old school detective music, and it like zooms in on his face really hard. And it just really reminded me of that video game. I loved it. I binge played it when I first got it, all 3 discs. I would still love to go back and play it today because it is one of those like it's like slightly choose your own adventure where some moves that you make can have effects on the future. So it's really cool. But yeah, I just wanted to share that story.
The reason why I was laughing is not because of your story, and I think it's really awesome that you have that memory of that game with that scene. But when you asked me if I played that game, I played lots of games in my lifetime, but the one that came to mind instantly when you asked me that was I used to play the Desperate Housewives game.
The fuck is the Desperate Housewives?
Okay, but do you know Desperate Housewives?
Yes, I know Desperate Housewives.
Okay, so they had a computer game, and it was like 8 discs long, and it was kind of like Sims, but in the Desperate Housewives world. So you'd go into people's houses and like steal shit. You would sleep with people, and like that was the storyline. There was like a murder mystery obviously involved in it, but your day to day was just sleeping with people and stealing food and stealing jewelry and like trying to break into people's houses. And
how old were you when you played this?
Oh, I think it came out I think the shows came out in like what, 2003 or 4 maybe. So I would have been like 16, 17.
Okay, so it was around the time that you figured out that maybe you were gay.
Yeah, I wasn't like a little kid when I played it. No.
I'm just saying. What? You talked about in a podcast.
Actually, go ahead.
You talked about in a podcast how you were in your late teens when you realized that you were gay. And there's just some things that you say to me sometimes, and I'm like, you didn't know? I would have known.
I had to have been an adult or 17 because I bought the game myself, and I was working at Best Buy, so I would have been 17 when I played that game. It's a fun game. I still have it.
I'd love to play it. I love Sims, so if I just get to fuck people and solve murder mysteries, I'm in. That's what I want to do IRL. Just fuck and solve murder mystery.
You're halfway there. I won't say which one you do, but
no, I do fuck a lot.
So there's a scene where Carl finds out that the scam artist is at a hotel or a motel, and he is running to get there, and he kind of interrupts the maid while he's trying to get to the door, and the maid's like, who are you, what's going on? And he pulls out his ID and he's like, FBI, and it was backwards. Like, I know. Like we could see his information. She just saw the outside of it, and I'm like, what? Like, that's just stupid. They couldn't reshoot that scene.
What I also found too is like he was always, and like I think that's just his character, but every time he did it, he would come within like 3 millimeters of the person's face. FBI.
So stupid. So stupid. Speaking of, it was the 60s. I was shocked when Frank's mother gave him money to go buy vinyl records. And was like, here's $5, go buy some records. Do you know how much records cost nowadays? It's expensive. It's way more than $5. The last record that I bought was the Lady Gaga Chromatica Record Store Day exclusive. And it was $60.
Once again, show off.
But it was $60.
Okay, to be fair though, I work at a pawn shop and they're $1 each. So I mean,
well, I mean, I've seen the ones you have at your pawn shop.
You're looking in the wrong spot.
Those are like ripped and like they're super old. They're not taken care of. Like they're not even worth $1.
Yeah, I'm not saying anything.
So here's a question. I don't know if you can answer this or if it's against your rules. But if someone brought in a bunch of shitty records like that, like what do you give them?
So basically, when it comes to records, it's not even like shitty versus not shitty. We sell records, CDs, DVDs, Blu-rays. We sell them all for a set price unless it's like a limited edition. Like if you brought in yours, we would give you a little bit more for yours if it's like a special edition one. But for the most part, any records that come in, we would give 50 cents on.
So like nothing.
Half of what we would sell it for.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw them, so they're not worth 50 cents, but so that person robbed you guys. They're gonna sit by that window for the rest of this year until they melt in the heat. So in this movie, they were calling him James Bond of the Sky. I thought that was kind of cheesy.
I've never seen a James Bond movie, so I don't even know who that is.
Oh, well, I've never seen a James Bond movie either, but I know who he is because it's a very popular series.
Like, who is James Bond?
No, there's lots of James Bonds. He's just like a spy, and he's always like suave and sexy and cool. Oh. And he has like 15, 25 movies. So there's lots of them.
I've heard of his name, obviously, and people go like... Bond. James Bond.
Yeah, exactly.
I know that.
Yeah, that's about much as I know, too.
Is that a James
yeah, that's
Bond
James
thing?
Bond.
So that's like...
Octopussy. Also James Bond, I think. I don't know. I don't watch James Bond.
That sounds like a fucking porno. That does not sound like a
I think
James
they
Bond.
all sound like pornos, though.
That's just...
They were all meant to be pornos.
James
They just removed the sex scenes. Wink, wink. Nudge, nudge.
Speaking of the 60s one more time, I was shocked. I was not that shocked, but it interested me to see that he walked up to, I don't know, I guess we're just gonna call it the reception counter at the hospital, and there was a fucking ashtray on the counter in the hospital, and I'm like, that is the 60s for you. You can check into the hospital while you have heart palpitations while you're smoking a cigarette.
I feel like that was even more than the 60s. I remember growing up in the 90s, and there was a lot of places that had ashtrays and cigarettes. And...
Well, yeah, it's not like it ended a million years ago. It was, but that's just... It just shows you how times have changed where, I mean, especially right now with what's happening in hospitals, the last thing you'd want to add to that hospital or a hospital anywhere in the world right now is the ability to smoke inside of it. Completely.
So there are a few girls in this movie who are quite famous ladies, I feel.
Yes.
And the one I felt was out of place was Jennifer Gardner's character.
1,000,000%.
She played a prostitute.
Oh, man.
That got paid a fake check, so she made no money and actually lost $400.
Yeah.
And Jennifer Gardner is Jennifer Gardner, and that's what she played in this role. We're like looking at each other like, oh, is this awkward? Is this sexy? You're like, she's not sexy at all.
The thing, I'm not saying she's not sexy. She's beautiful and pretty. Okay, maybe I don't even consider her sexy as a human in general. She's pretty, she's beautiful, but she's meant to play the quirky 30-year-old. She's meant to play the mother. She's meant to play the protector. She's not meant to play a hooker / prostitute and try and be like throwing cards at people. Go fish, bingo. Like whatever she did. It was just, it's not Jennifer Garner. I see her as a mom, and it's not for her.
This is going to be kind of controversial for people who are movie fans or superhero fans, but I actually think Jennifer Garner was quite sexy as Elektra.
Just let me Google that real quick.
Right,
I'll be the judge of that.
You haven't seen movies, so you wouldn't know, right?
Okay, wait, sorry. What is she?
She was in Daredevil, and she played a character called Elektra, and then she had her own movie right afterwards called Elektra. People hated her in it, but I did not. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Even looking at the pictures, I just don't love it. Honestly, I think the way her makeup's done in some of these are kind of, they make her not pretty. I don't know. I don't love her trying to be
Maybe
sexy.
if you saw it in action, it'd be different.
Maybe. But like I say, nurturing mother, her child is dying. She's 13, going on 30.
That's all she's allowed.
And she's having a fun time with her kids because she usually says no, and it was yes day. So that's what Jennifer Garner needs to be in. Not sexy. Not prostitute. Not superhero.
The other actress in here was Amy Adams, and I was kind of shocked to see her because she's quite young in this movie and almost didn't recognize her, to be honest. It was cool to see her in a role that was minor, because I feel like most of her movies, she tends to be the main character in things, and this one she definitely wasn't.
And I was shocked to realize who she was. She's Ella from Ella Enchanted.
No, she's not. She's definitely not.
She's from Enchanted.
Yes.
And I don't know what her name was in that movie.
We'll just call her Chanted.
Great, this is gonna end up in Sunday. For the love of God.
It's gonna be 20 minutes of you making mistakes.
Giselle.
There we go.
I've seen that movie once, a very long time ago.
Same here, but it's a good movie.
It is a good movie. I liked it.
It's weird how we've both seen it once, but we both liked the movie.
Yeah. I never realized that was her, and I've seen this movie a lot more times than I've seen Enchanted.
So I can't remember the name, but there's a point where Carl realizes one of Frank's aliases, and it turns out it's a character from the Flash comics.
Barry Allen.
Barry Allen. Okay, thank you. Yeah. When he calls his other FBI guy to let him know that he's using this alias, Carl's holding like 10 Flash comics, being like, I found the name, it's in a Flash comic. Why did he have 10 of them? Like, you just needed one. You just needed one comic.
And not only that, but he says, he's using a name from a comic book. This guy's a freaking kid. And like, can adults not read comic books? Like,
I think at that time period, there was a disconnect where...
Oh, now you want to bring the 60s in.
Well, let's talk about it, because it's actually a real thing in that at that point in time, adults, especially parents, saw comics as a very negative thing. Violence, horror, sex. Adults did not read comics, and it really was kid-driven. And now, because of how the world is different, those kids who read those comics are now adults, and they just never stopped reading them. Mm-hmm. But there was a point where comics were seen as strictly for kids, even though the content wasn't just for kids, depending on the comic you were reading. Mm-hmm. So it's actually, there's lots of documentaries about it. They're really cool. Maybe we'll watch it on Doc Sunday at some point.
Yeah.
Okay, there's one scene, sorry, I know you're looking at your notes, but there's one scene that I thought was hilarious, and I think it's meant to be sweet, but I couldn't stop laughing inside. It was while they were dancing in unison while washing the dishes.
Oh, why is it funny?
Because all I could think about is who washes dishes and dances in unison while you're washing dishes. It was not meant to be funny, but I thought it was funny. Have you ever danced in unison while Have you ever washed dishes?
Oh, shut up. Yes, I have. Rob, if you're watching, please comment. I do Rob's dishes all the time. Sorry, baby, I'm calling you out. But he always has a sink full of dishes, and I always do them. And sometimes we do them together, and we're cute about it. I'm not saying that we dance in unison, but I'm saying we're cute and nice about it. And maybe you should dance in unison with your mans while doing dishes, and tell me if it's funny.
We dance in the kitchen. It's really sweet, but this one was funny.
The fuck? You know what? So Frank is getting what he wants simply by using his words. He was able to become a pilot and keep his cool, calm composure. Co-pilot, yes, sorry. And keep his calm composure, say the right things, and speak not when he was not supposed to where people believed him so much. He would just, when he first became the deadhead, the pilots were asking him questions, and he kind of danced around the questions a little bit. The first one he answered about the equipment, but the second one he just kind of spewed some random metaphor bullshit, and the pilot's like, haha, yeah, man, and then he just became a pilot. The same thing happened when he was a doctor. He walked in, talked to Amy Adams' character, Brenda, and he just talked her into the fact that he's a doctor. Talked his way through the bank teller, which was, what's her name? I don't like her. What was the bank teller's name?
I'm sorry, I don't know.
No, it's coming.
Ella?
No, it's Kristen something. Is it Kristen? It's Kristen something. She's in maybe actually. What is her name? She's in
20 minutes later.
Definitely maybe. That's what she's in. Definitely maybe is Elizabeth Banks. Not Kristen.
Okay, yeah.
Elizabeth Banks.
Very small role.
Yeah. So he goes to a bank teller and it's Elizabeth Banks, and he cons his way into figuring out what the transit or whatever numbers mean. He's a very smooth talker, and that is the whole way to his success. He didn't need schooling. He didn't need anything. He was just cool, calm, and composed. And the time that I really was like, this is why you don't try and back yourself out of a lie straight off the hop, was when he was talking to Brenda's dad, and he wanted to get him to take the bar. And Brenda's dad calls him out. He's just like, I know that you're not this. I know that you're not that. So what are you? And he comes clean completely, and he says, I'm not a pilot. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a doctor. I'm just a man and boy in love with your daughter. And he just stares and stares and stares. And he goes, yes, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. Yep, you can marry my daughter because you are telling the truth, and I definitely believe you. You're just in love, and you'll do anything to be in love. But nobody still called him out that he was, because he didn't backpedal when that awkward silence happened in between the lie, and he just let it play out. But if he would have said anything, it might have caused suspicion.
I don't think Brenda's dad thought he was lying at that point. Because he said, I know who you are, you're a hopeless romantic. So I think he was just ignoring, he took that comment of, I'm not this, I'm not that, as being like, he's showing his true self, that he's just a boy in love. I don't think he felt that he was deceiving anyone. I think he was just so enamored by his speech. You
don't think that him calling him out for not going to Berkeley was him suspicious of what he...
I think he was suspicious the entire time, but I think that conversation in question when he said, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a doctor, I don't think he took that, Brenda's dad, as a serious statement.
No. And that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, though. But that's how he talked his way out of he was able to say those things, and the dad, like, he was able to use his charm by saying those things, that the dad was enamored. At that moment, two options could have happened. Right after he said that, there was that silence, and the dad gets up and walks around and sits down next to him. He could have said anything to try and backpedal and add to his conversation, but instead he just stayed cool, watched what was going to happen next, and ran with what happened next. And that's how he got away with doing all of this stuff.
So with that, you said that he wasn't taught, he wasn't, trained in schools. But really, he was taught. He was taught by the best. His dad was a scam artist. So he was taught to be that way. He wasn't just naturally this charmer who knew how to scam people. He was trained from a little boy to this point. So I don't think it's a free pass that he's just amazing. He was trained to be amazing. They do end up catching, or Carl ends up catching Frank. And he ends up going to jail for a period of time. And again, I don't know how true this is to the real story, but I thought it was a little extreme that they put him in isolation while he was in jail.
I agree with that.
Like, it was money scams. He didn't kill anyone. He didn't, hurt anyone for the most part. It was all money things. And if he hurt anyone, it was the banks and it was people that had lots of money. I mean, the only person he probably hurt the most was that prostitute that he stole $400 from. But self-isolation does not make sense with the crime in question.
I think the only thing was they were just trying to keep him as locked in as possible because he has been known to escape even jail.
Yeah.
But I still don't agree with it, but looking back, I'm like, you know what, maybe it's because he kept running away. They just decided to lock him in a very secure room by himself. But I do agree, like, putting him in isolation, if it was just for the fact that he was stealing money, that's not any, that's a pretty big, yeah.
It doesn't fit the crime.
Yeah, thank you.
My one negative with this movie, because I don't think my other problems are really negatives or just things I noticed.
Yeah.
This is definitely a negative in my book. This movie is too long.
It is very long.
It's very long. And even outside of knowing how long it was, even at the end, I'm like, okay, cool, we're at the end finally. Nope, no we're not. We're going to do this other scene. Okay, we're at the end now. Nope, no we're not. And like, the ending was just, when is it coming? Not that it was a bad story, because it is so long. When is this closure going to happen? That's probably my biggest negative with this movie.
And so that's for me, when I went into it, I think the more you watch it, the easier it does get to watch it, because I do agree the first time I remember watching it and I was like, oh my god, same with Wolf of Wall Street. When is this going to end? Like, it feels like it drags on forever. But after you watch it and you know what you're expecting and what parts you're expecting, definitely does shorten the movie or make it at least feel its length.
Fair. It's kind of like going on a road trip and it's like taking forever to get where you're going, but going back home is so much quicker, even though it's in the same amount of time.
Exactly.
Yeah, I got that feeling. So, he was a co-pilot, a lawyer, a doctor. He made real checks. He became a printer. He did so many things. And like you said, he wasn't classically trained on any of these items or any of these professions. At any point in your life, did you ever pretend to be something or someone that you weren't?
Of course I did. I think you know stories of when I was somebody that I wasn't.
When? I don't remember any of these stories.
You don't remember me telling you stories? Me and my friend, Every year, we would come up with a new alias. How do you not know this?
Maybe I do. Tell me again.
There's a whole fucking YouTube channel behind it.
Okay. So, well, I get that. But did you ever do it in the sense of, in a more official matter? Like, I know, like, that story, and it was, you guys just goofing off for the most part. But did you ever have a fake alias that gave you something? Or you did it for an actual reason?
I don't think so.
You don't think so? You've always been yourself?
Why are you questioning me like you know something I don't?
I'm just questioning if you've always been yourself.
I feel like I have. I don't feel like I've... What have I done? I'm sorry, tell me.
It's not you. You didn't do anything. Calm yourself. I have. Kind of. I'm pretty sure I've shared the story before, but now everyone's going to hear it. So when I was in high school, me and my friends would tend to go to haunted places. And there was this old high school in our town that was for sale. And we wanted to explore it because we heard that it was haunted. We get to the school and we're kind of like, okay, what do we do if the police come? What do we do if someone sees us? Like, what do we do? So we look beside the school and there's one of those real estate ads to sell the school. And on there in big letters was Lowry Tombs selling this location. And at that point, we all looked at each other and said, D'Artagnan, if the cops come, you are Lowry Tombs.
No.
And you are trying to sell this school to us. And we thought that was ingenious. I don't know how. That would never fly. It would never have worked. But that was the plan if the cops were to come out. The cops did come out. They didn't catch us. But that was the plan. I was Lowry Tombs, the real estate agent.
Wait, at what time?
It was like the middle of the day.
Okay. I'm like,
yeah, it was during the day.
You're going at midnight?
It was during the day. And here's the kicker, too. It was like we went to the door and we just opened it. Like, it was unlocked. We didn't have to break in. We just walked in.
I've had it not the same experience as in the fake name, but I have had the same experience where me and my friends went to an abandoned school, of course, at like 1 a.m. And we thought it was completely abandoned. And the window had been smashed, so you could just reach inside and open the door. And we walk in and we look around and then we see a very new and modern Tim Hortons coffee cup sitting in there. And we're like, okay, someone must have been here. And then we take one more step. The alarm started going off. I guess they were rebuilding the school at this point. And yeah, as soon as we booked it, I've never ran so fast in my life. Get in the car, we peel out of there. Helicopters start flying above. Police didn't come. Copters flew. But, I was no Larry Tombs.
Lowry Tombs.
Lowry! For every movie, we have a scoring system. We have 5 different topics rated out of 3 for a total of 15 per movie. And we start with the edge of seat rating. Did the movie keep you engaged?
I gave it a 2.
Okay.
And it would have been a 3 if it wasn't so long. There were just moments where it was just like me... Get through this next 5 minutes. And I liked the movie. I just wanted it to be a little bit shorter.
Mm-hmm. I gave it a 3. I don't know if it's because I have seen it before. So, I know that sounds weird. It should be opposite. But I know what's happening, like I said. And I know that... I know the feel of the movie is and how long it's going to feel. But I still also... Some of my... And this is going to make you so angry. It's not even funny. Some of my favorite drama-y / action-y / non-comedy movies to watch are based on true stories.
I have a question to ask you. How much did you know about this true story before you watched it?
Actually, quite a bit. This one I did. Wolf of Wall Street I didn't know anything about.
Okay.
This one I did know quite a bit about. So, anyway, it's a 3. Let's move along.
All of yours are 3s. They're always... I don't think you've given one of your movies lower than a 3 for the edge of your seat rating.
No, that's bullshit.
Sierra, 3. American Murder, 3. Kingpin, 3.
No,
I swear...
Fuck you. I'm going back and I'm looking. I'm looking right now to prove a fucking point to you. You son of a bitch. I'm so angry at you right now. Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here, you piece of shit. I gave it Where the fuck is it?
Okay, the only one you didn't give a 3 would have been 500 Days
With 500 Days of Summer.
Because it was so bad.
But I promise you, I didn't give a fucking 3 on all that shit that you fucking said I gave a fucking 3 on. This is bullshit. I'm pissed now. I'm pissed now. Shut up. I'm pissed now.
You're not pissed.
I'm pissed now. Get out of here. I'm pissed now.
So stop.
I'm pissed now. I'm trying to find one of my movies that I gave a low scoring on Edge of the Sea because I'm pissed now. I'm pissed now. He thinks that I'm just. I can't find one.
Exactly.
It's not that I can't find one. It's that I can't find the ratings in my notes. I can't find them. I'll keep fucking going. Fuck you. You're making me do this. Look at you. Okay, let's go. I gave the Chris Watts murders. Where are my ratings?
They just up and disappeared. All of them.
For real though, what the fuck? Like they're not here. Stop laughing at me. This isn't fucking funny. I'm going to the front of my books. I'm gonna fucking prove to you right now that I don't fucking give 3s to all of my Edge of the Seas because you're fucking mean. Here they are. Okay. Edge of the Sea for Sierra, 2. Urban, I gave 3. Urban was your movie. Chris Watts, 2.5. Does that sound like a fucking 3? Get the fuck out of here.
You won. You won.
Thank you.
I retract my statement.
I give this one a fucking 3. What do you feel of the acting? He's crying.
I'm crying. I'm sorry. Okay, the acting. I gave it a 2 as well. And I think that was because of Tom Hanks' accent.
Oh, no.
Like, that's acting. Accents is acting. And there are some people who do accents really well. And there's Tom Hanks people that don't do it really well.
See, that's the thing. I didn't hate Tom Hanks' accent until you pointed it out. And I know I made fun of the one thing, but I just feel like that's what people sounded like back in the day. I know I'm bringing it back to back in the 60s. But like, I just feel like people sounded weird like that. So, I don't know. All I'm saying, I gave it a 3. Tom Hanks, Christopher Walken, Leo DiCap. How can you go wrong with that cast? Obviously, the acting, aside from Tom Hanks' thing, is impeccable. And I can't believe that Tom Hanks' accent took down a whole fucking point for you.
It was very distracting.
A whole point?
I was very distracted.
Not even a
by
point five?
it. It was very distracting.
Jeez.
But it is a really well-loaded star cast.
Yes,
for
I
sure.
agree.
For sure.
What was your climax/ending rating?
So if it had ended...
Oh god, 5 minutes earlier.
15 minutes earlier. But if it had ended when they had caught him and kind of put him in jail and that kind of ending, it would have been a 3 for me. But when it didn't end, I was not over with the movie, but I was just like waiting for that ending. So I was done at that point. So it got a 2 for me because it was too long.
Okay. I gave it a 3. I haven't seen this movie in a really long time, and I still get giddy and excited when certain things happen. Like, one of my favorite scenes is when he cons the FBI into thinking that he's special services, and that part just gets me so giddy because it's so genius. And
it's a great scene.
It's a great scene, and I feel like that is a big part of the climax. It's the first time that Tom Hanks has actually met and caught.
Okay, that's right.
Met and caught, I guess, but like met and caught Frank, and then he realizes he lets him go, and that's really when the chase starts. Like, that's when the chase really, really starts. Everything starts getting hot then, and I love the ending.
That's not the climax, though. That's not the climax by any means.
That
is like pretty early in the movie.
That's not really.
Yes, it is.
Okay, you want it to be 45 minutes shorter, so...
That is not the climax of the movie by any means.
That is the climax of the movie. What's the climax to you?
That hotel scene was so early on.
Not really.
Yes, it was. He wasn't even a doctor yet.
Oh my god. And how much of the movie actually happened with him as a doctor?
And the lawyer stuff hadn't happened yet either.
Yeah, that's not a lot. He was a lawyer for like a day.
If you thought that was the climax, I believe that you are wrong.
And if you don't think that's the climax, I believe that you still think that this movie should have been 45 fucking minutes shorter, and you have no idea what time of the movie this shit happened in.
Yes, I do.
You literally just said you weren't paying attention.
I didn't say I wasn't paying attention.
How do you feel of the script?
Hold on. You asked me what the climax was.
What's the climax, Steve?
The climax of this movie is when he escapes the airplane.
That's the fucking end.
Do you not know what a climax is?
The climax is when the fucking middle of the movie, when it's like, oh, this is the big action that's taking place.
So you think the hotel scene is the big action scene?
That's the first time he fucking catches Frank.
No.
Then it's just the chase. The whole start of the movie is him fucking conning the shit out of people, and the chase doesn't start. The shit doesn't start until the hotel scene.
Bring it down. Bring it down.
What is your fucking rating for the script? I've had enough of this conversation.
I'm scared to give a rating at this point. I'm scared to give a rating.
Let me take a guess. It's a 2.
Maybe it's a 1.
And it's a 2 because Tom Hanks' accent wasn't perfected.
Okay, so if you must know, calm yourself. I gave it a 3.
Thank
okay.
fucking God.
Okay.
Finally. That's the first fucking 3 you've ever given my.
That is not true.
I think I say that every time you give me a 3.
So I got a 3, okay? I do like the story of this movie, and I don't see any major flaws with the script itself. Other than the jury scene, that I think that is a flaw in the script. But other than that, it's a 3 for me.
I also gave it a 3.
Of course you did. You give all your movies 15 points.
I didn't say that it was 15.
Oh, is it not?
I don't know. Why don't we ask the next question and
sure,
find out? Because I know what Dee's answer is.
Let's do it.
Dee's answer is a fucking 1 because it was too long.
Are you going to ask me the question?
Wait, are you going to watch this movie again?
I gave it a 3.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Now let's be real. That is
yeah.
the first time you've given me a 3 on that topic.
that is
the first movie
correct.
you would watch again.
That is correct.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm not actually mad at him. It just adds comedy to these things.
She's mad.
I also gave it a 3. This movie gets a perfect score from me.
Okay. Yeah, I gave it 12 out of 15.
So that is
27.
27.
Which will then change our top 4.
Okay, so in 4th place right now, we have Kingpin with 23 points. In 3rd place, we have Urban Legend with 25.5 points. And tied for 1st place currently on our list is Bowling for Columbine and Catch Me If You Can.
That's pretty impressive.
That's really impressive.
And that we both picked a movie and we've made it number 1.
That's crazy. I'm shocked one of mine has got to number 1. Then again, I did give it 15, but it is a great movie.
So that's going to be the plan for going forward. Give all your movies 15 and
Exactly.
you're guaranteed to get up there.
Exactly.
No, it was a good movie.
I'm going back to 500 Days of Summer and I'm just ranking it 15 because it's the best movie I've ever seen. Get the fuck out of here. End this podcast right now.
Bye, guys. Thanks for listening to Vantage Revival.